All right, mold. All right, we get questions on this constantly. It comes up all the time, right? And mold has become the new four-letter word for real estate agents. I don't know if you can read this or not on the video, but these are more notes for me, so I remember what I want to say to you. Right, so why has mold become such a contentious subject in the real estate transaction? One of the reasons is we come across it all the time. Very common. The other reason is mold went from, at least up here in New York State, 0 regulations. You could just, if you found it, you dealt with it like a leaky pipe. You call a plumber. You would just call a contractor. Well, progression of events a few years ago, New York State felt the need to put some regulations in place. They basically went from 0 regulations to copying and pasting all the regulations for asbestos, which are insane, over onto mold. So it got super strict overnight and caused lots of paperwork. So it becomes a headache if it's there. Doesn't need to be, but it is, okay? But here's some facts of the matters with mold when you find it in a home or a building or car, wherever. All right, it's villainized. It's not a plant, it's not an animal, it's somewhere in between. It's a fungus, basically, okay? But it's been villainized. But if you calm down and think about it, it's in our foods, okay? We make foods from it. It's in blue cheese. We use it to make things like whiskey and beer, which I am particularly fond of. So I don't have a problem with mold. It makes me things I like. All right, you can go to a bar on any given night and have blue cheese, beer, whiskey. It's all products of mold and fungus. We make medicine from it, like penicillin. So it's something that's been very villainized, and we need to just be balanced in our viewpoints with it, really, okay? Get asked all the time when I say, hey, there's mold in your attic or the crawl space or wherever. They say, oh, well, but is it black mold? And my answer is, it doesn't matter, okay? There is no, as far as I know, there is no set species that is specifically referred to as black mold. And there are many, many species that can appear black. So the color is not the indicator of what the species is, okay? The issue with this comment or this question right here, is it black mold? Should it be concerned? If one species can grow there, they can all grow there, okay? So we're not looking at what species it is, we're looking at the habitat, basically, think about it, okay? Now, someone finds mold in the home, in the basement or the attic, you don't need to freak out about it any more than if you found corn or grass growing in the house, okay? It just shouldn't be there. It should be outside, not inside. The mold spores, just like pollen, always in the air, always gonna be there. It's not a matter of if it's there, it's a matter of how much is there, okay? So plenty of people are allergic to the pollen and the spores from ragweed and grass, and it's there year round, but certain times of the year, it's way more condensed into the air than other times. You have some people that have really bad allergies, like when the ragweed season comes out, okay? 25% of the population is more highly reactive to mold in the home than others. I happen to be one of them. If there's a lot of mold in a house, I can usually start to feel it from outside. I start to know. But I also know if the carpets were recently shampooed, or they use a lot of Lysol, or they use a lot of hairspray, my asthma will start to kick in, okay? So it causes an allergic reaction. About 25% of the population. Babies and elderly are susceptible to it as well, but they're susceptible to a lot of things that they have to be cautious with. And the reality is, in about 85% of the homes, or 80, 85, whatever, in the Northeast area, we're gonna find it to some extent or another. It's gonna be there. And if you know what you're looking for, you're gonna find it a little bit easier than others. It doesn't have to be big blotch, shaggy, hanging down, fungus, mushrooms. Sometimes it can just look like a little dusting or a little discoloration. It just depends when you're in the right habitat for it. It's got the food, you know what you're looking at. You see a little speckles here and there. It can take on a lot of different forms. But 80% of the homes is an easy estimate in my head. That's just my estimate of the homes I look at that I inspect. So keep that in mind. That's how common it is, okay? Just like anything else, it's very common. There's a common solution, okay? So what is that? Well, first off, we'll just stick with my points here. Mold is a symptom of something else going on in the home. It's like if you're having chest pains, there's like 150 medically documented different reasons why you could be having chest pains, okay? So if there's mold in the home, mold is the symptom. Mold is telling you the humidity in the house, there's food, there's humidity, there's everything that the mold needs to grow in there. And because it's a spore going through the air, it gets first dibs and starts to grow. If mold can grow in a space, so can probably other plant species too, or other organisms. So what is the cure? You change the habitat. You get rid of its food. You get rid of the water source. Just like any other, like any plant you want to kill, you just eliminate the habitat. Okay. So here's the steps that I like to see when I'm looking at a remediation, okay? I want to see it mechanically removed. So sometimes it's just on personal items in the basement or in the attic. Boxes, clothing, just things in storage that are just stale and just been there for a long time. If those are physically removed and the place is physically cleaned, wiped down, vacuumed, that gets rid of a lot of it. We want to see that done. Then I want to see that it is chemically treated, even though, and if you know me personally, you know I really don't like chemicals. But in this instance, it's the best case to do it, okay? You can't just use bleach. In fact, some fungus actually will eat the bleach. We learned that after Hurricane Katrina. You can't just use vinegar. Even though I love using vinegar for tons of cleaning products and different things, but one of the problems is with vinegar and bleach, besides it being a potential food source, is also you're putting a lot of water into the area to clean, to use those products. So chemical is your best bet. Chemically clean it, chemically treat it so that it prevents it from coming back. We request when we write our assessments that the chemicals be pigmented with white pigment, so that I can very easily see that the remediators did their job and everything is done. If I go up in the attic, it should be white like a piece of freshly painted furniture. There shouldn't be any spots that aren't white. It should be really easy to tell that the job was done right. All right. New York State does not require a remediator company to fix the cause. They only require them to fix the symptom. Just like a medical doctor, they treat the symptoms, not the problem. So when you're looking at who's going to do your remediation for you, look at your assessment, see what the assessor says the likely cause of the problem is, and make sure that is being addressed as well. Because they can address it, they're allowed to address it, they're just not required to. So what would that look like? It's usually ventilation, okay? In an attic or a crawl space, it's usually lack of ventilation. There's just not airflow moving through there, keeping the temperature down, keeping the humidity down. In a basement, it could be there's no gutters on the house, the water's getting through the block, through the foundation, just a really damp basement. It's a nice, warm, habitable place, and it's growing on the timbers. Crawl space, same thing. It could be a dirt crawl space. It's just damp. It's got a place to grow. Also in the attic, a lot of times, if there's a bathroom or kitchen vent fan, sometimes those are just dumping into the attic. It's nice, hot, steaming air blowing into the attic onto a food source, and the mold gets a chance to grow. Okay, so it's very easily addressable. Okay, now it does have a monetary cost, but so does everything else. But there's a system in place, and every real estate agent has been through this so many times, they can easily just take you through the process. It shouldn't hinder anything, and you should be able to just keep right on rolling with what you're doing. Like I said, you're gonna find it in most homes you look at some extent or another, even if it's just a little tiny patch under the kitchen sink, just it's there, it's common. So when we do our assessments, we do visually only most of the time, because it really doesn't matter what species it is. Because like I said, if one can grow, they can all grow. So if it's there in quantity, then we want to get rid of it. So visually only. Once in a while, we'll do a contact test or an air sample test if needed for specific reasons, but it's really not ever needed. Sometimes it's just requested. So this is the process that it goes through. Usually you have a home inspection. Home inspector is not allowed to say whether it's mold or not if they're just a home inspector, if they just have that license. So an assessor has to come in. Now the mold assessor, who could be another party, or it could be the home inspector can hold a mold assessment license. There's just not all of them do, okay? But you have to have an assessment written up. The remediation company cannot work without the assessment. This is a check and balance system that New York State put in place. So the assessor writes up, this is the quantity, I think this is the cause, this is the approximate price, this is what I would like to see done, and this is my requirements to clear it, in a nutshell. Then the remediation company, the homeowner, or whoever's having the work done, is gonna call, get 3 or 4 different estimates. You pick your contractor just like you would a roofer or a plumber or anybody else. You're gonna get the guy you're comfortable with. They give their estimate, they comply with the assessment, they do the work, they do everything as instructed, they do whatever it takes to get it all done. And then an assessor comes back. It can be the same guy or it can be a different guy or girl. You're not required to use the same assessor for the assessment as for the clearance. You can use a different person if you like, or you can use the same one, doesn't matter. They come back and they perform a clearance. They look and make sure everything was done, everything was complied as they requested and per New York State, okay? Once you get the clearance, that makes the bank happy if you need one, and it makes you happy if you've asked to have this work done. And then you're gonna make sure that as the person buying the home, that there's a warranty and it transfers to you, and it's transferable to the next person if you sell it while the warranty's still in place, and that everything's documented that it was done. Basically, if you think about this is different terms, but this would be the same as if you had a leaky roof or a bad chimney or anything else common in a house that need to be done. You would get estimates on it, you would get it fixed, you would make sure it was done to your specifications, and then you would carry on knowing that that's probably no longer a problem. So I hope this answers some questions about what it is, the issues with it, and how to handle it.